Españoles, what are the threshold of greatness? Right under us is great empire for the taking. If we do, the Almighty will protect us. The taking will praise us, the King will praise us, and history will honor us. Fear not the thousand heathen. They led us inside the plaza to be entrapped, not knowing that they themselves have made their own trap. The walls will not protect us from the ones coming in, but from the ones trying to get out. Only God knows of the massacre that is to follow. If we die, we will be forgotten forever. If we live, we shall be remembered for all times to come. Don Francisco will still live by the whims of demagogues who let others die for their cause, forgetting that there is a vast humanity who will be left out. Kuntursoul, what I have said is not demagoguery. My struggles are also theirs. We are not men of thought. We are soldiers of fortune. In moments like this, my words have more meaning than yours. Soto, Hernando, Pedro de Candia, and Father Valverde, we have to plan our strategy. There are only two entrances, and that could be an advantage for us. We will let the Inca entourage and his warriors enter until the place is full. Once inside, we will act according to what the Inca has in mind. Perhaps he's going to try to kill us, to which we will resist. Maybe he will talk to us into forming an alliance. We will listen. Or the impossible, to take us as his vassals. That will never happen. Whatever his desires are, we have to take him hostage. The Indians they will be without a symbolic leader, and they will attempt to escape. But how and to where? We should be able to kill all of them in this walled-off plaza. Pedro de Candia, take his small cannon and the arquebuses to the tower. Aim them at where the multitude of Indians are going to be. When you receive my orders, fire at will. The noise and the smoke will cause panic in these heretics who think that our weapons are the scepter of thunder of the god of war. Capitan, just make a sign with your handkerchief. The sound of my arms will make echo to your orders. Well said, Greek. We have 177 men, 67 of which are of the cavalry. Let us divide in 3 sections. I will stay with the Father Valverde in the palace of Atahualpa. Hernando Pizarro, you take the house of the virgins. There are no women, so save your cojones for the fight. Soto, Mena, and Benalcázar, take your horsemen to the large barracks. The infantry and our Yunga Indians will be under the command of my brother Juan Gonzalo. When I shout Santiago, the cavalry will charge. The infantry will follow, and our coastal Indians will finish with the wounded and the dying. For now, the horsemen will remain mounted, and the soldiers are standing ready for battle. We don't know when Atahualpa is coming. It could be tonight or tomorrow. Soto, did the Inca mention he was coming with armed men? He said that they were coming armed. I told him that he could come any way he wished, that all you want is to have dinner with him. He seemed to indicate that his warriors would be carrying only ceremonial weapons, but he appeared to have a dilemma on how they would come. Whether they come tonight or tomorrow, armed or not, all our men have to do is toughen up their cojones. Francisco, They better enlarge their bladders. Many of them are already urinating from fear. Hernando, they will be shitting in their pants when the morning comes. That is good. It will keep them awake and alert. Father Valverde, as the chaplain of our troops, you will be the first one to go to Atahualpa and recite him the requerimiento, so that they know what the crown and the church wants of them. If you are in good terms with the Almighty, we will be saved from the bloodshed. If you are not, we have to do as I plan. Capitan, que va? Are you using me as a sacrificial lamb because I am a priest? Yes, Father. Your mission is to convert the heathen. If you die, the Lord will reward you in heaven. If you live, you will be a spiritual leader of all these heretics, wearing red robes, fancy hats, and silky shoes. Válgame Dios, you are the devil dressed with the tunic of Santiago. The theater of an imminent genocide was planned. The Inca would be at the mercy of their God. Great Atahualpa, like I have asked you before, let me go and kill the strangers, except for the barber to make you handsome, the one who makes weapons, and one Hernando Sánchez Murillo, who domesticates the offspring of those big animals that reproduce by mounting just like our llamas do. Inca, their horses are not supernatural, and the strangers are not the true Huiracochas. They are none of those things, and why? I can get rid of them if you give me 500 warriors. Sinking Chara, Quilamasa killed 3 of them, and you think that you can kill all of them. The warriors of Tumbes were able to do that while the Spaniards were jumping from their boat and not on horseback. I am not against your proposition, and I wish you could have done away with all of them. However, you must understand that you are fighting a different civilization who thinks of themselves superior, and they are, but not for the reasons that they believe they are. To the invaders who are not humans, and to them one of their soldiers is worth 100 of yours. Kuntursoul, the Sapa Inca should let Sinking Chara bring those 3 Spaniards and kill the rest. Marcavilca, the foreigners are not subjugated people like you are. Freedom is a concept that lets people do the utmost for their own interest. I don't know if you understand what I'm trying to tell you. Maybe Rumiñahui does. He is going to fight when it's convenient for him. And when Inca needs him, he may not be around. You want us to be united for a common cause, and Rumiñahui will be free to do as he pleases. No, Marcavilca, you should all come to a consensus, for this is the war this is the last war that you will ever fight. Man of the future, fear not for us, but for what is going to happen to them. We have won all the battles in the empire. Feats more difficult to accomplish than to fight against a few invaders. How can we lose what is already polished in stone and sealed with blood? That is what I said. Then those miniature towers of stone and the headless ducks. Inca, those symbolic gestures tell us that we have the strength to be great, but not the vision to attain it. Kuntursoul, it is time that you encounter Rumiñahui. Man of the future, why do you come to meet with me? You should be with the nobility who are giving the Inca bad tactical advice, and now the invaders are inside the plaza. Who is going to get them out of there? We can't fight them. Rumiñahui, the generals of Atahualpa are in Cusco. You are the only one who can save the empire. Are you going to help the Inca when he needs you? If Atahualpa is taken prisoner and I try to rescue him, I could end up with two enemies, the bearded men and the Incas. If you don't fight them, not only the Incas are going to lose, but all of you as a race. You need to combine the different instruments of war that each nation has and confront a modern army. I know the ayos, round stones tied to ropes, are what the mountain men fear the most. When thrown to a horse, he wraps around his legs and the animal falls. But you're not going to use them. And in a few hours, you will not have a commander-in-chief. I will do what is convenient when the time comes. Go and confront the Incas and court the Spaniards. You as a man of the future seems to be unable to take sides. Don Francisco, I see that you're ready to exterminate these credulous people. Que va? We have spent the whole night awake. My priests have been praying. The cavalry mountain, my infantry defecating from panic, and you're telling me that we are going to butcher them? If we don't know yet, this might be our last night. Let us follow history that is chiseled in stone by them, and it will be written with blood by us. Atahualpa ordered the 6,000 of his men prepare for the short march, a long road that the Indians and mestizos are still tracking for not knowing what happened to our ancestors and why it happened. Soiled and sleepless, the Spaniards were commending their soul to the Almighty during a mass officiated by Verde. Man, after the communion, the priest gave his sermon. Christians, you're about to do God's work. If you live, I will absolve you of all your killings that you will do. If you die, your rewards will be in heaven. Fear not that the Almighty will protect us. The priest's intentions had not a hint of hypocrisy in what he was preaching. Even in our times, we're still killing with the notion that God has created some races or nations to survive over others. The Spaniards believed that they were on a grand crusade, and they exalted their cruelty against those who did not accept their beliefs. Although worlds apart, Atahualpa was not different than in the old world. He was going to sacrifice the strangers for the same reasons and offer them to Inti. While Atahualpa was going to the plaza, both parties were sending emissaries to size up each other's movements. The Inca knew of their numbers, but he was not aware of what was in store for him. The Spaniards feared that Atahualpa could change his mind and not come to be taken hostage, a decision that could alter the destiny of both. ¿Qué pasa? The Inca has stopped. It's noon, and this Indian is taking his time. Capitan, a Chasqui has come with a message from the Inca that he will come tomorrow with armed warriors. Felipillo, explain the runner that his lord can come as he wishes. Soto, let us send Saldaña as my representative. He's the youngest and the scrawniest of my soldiers. Atahualpa, after seeing him, will think that we are not as dangerous. The Inca became furious at the sight of the unimposing emissary. He ordered that his warriors take his sword. Whether in defiance or out of fear, Saldaña held on to his weapon. Atahualpa, according to what he had seen when Soto and Hernando went to meet him, thought that perhaps the rest of the Spaniards were as meek as the soldiers seemed to be. Seeing the diminutive Spaniard trembling for his belief, the Inca, still puzzled by his boldness, let him go with a message that he would be in the plaza at sunset. In this belief, Saldaña left as fast as he could. Who knows? Perhaps Francisco sent him because he was an astute soldier. He held to his sword. For what reason? He had not a chance. That pride comes from the Spanish heritage. Whether old or poor, they maintain their self-importance, and why all we want to be Spaniards and not Indians or mestizos. Atahualpa, you have halted your march midway to the plaza. Have you changed your mind and perhaps let your troops fight them? Kuntursoul, I am the Sapa Inca. I do as it inspires me. Inca, this is not the time to play with gods. It is a real war. At least they see it that way. Once they have you inside the square, there will not be any action from your people if you don't lift a finger. The Inca thought that he was prepared for all eventualities, and he ordered, Marcavilca, send a message to tell them that I will come with an armed men and dispatch a chasqui to Rumiñahui to get ready to catch the mountain men who try to run away. Great Atahualpa, you don't need to go inside the plaza. I will take care of them. Thinking Chara, I am a warrior. It wouldn't be fit not to be in front of my troops. I want to see the Apu Machu in person and impress on him that I am the only lord of the land. Remember, Huascar is still alive. As described by different chroniclers, 6,000 or 7,000 people began the short trek towards the square with all the pomp befit an empire. Hundreds of men led the entourage, clearing the roads of debris, followed by dancers and musicians, giving the event a carnivalesque atmosphere, while the Inca, in his sumptuous litter, was imbibing chicha. Then the thousand warriors wearing checkered designed uniforms and armed with ceremonial clubs followed last. And normally they were all marching to their final destiny. Atahualpa was thinking that the strangers perhaps came to celebrate his victory against Huascar. In the spiritual history of the Incas, they believed that alien beings came to their ancestral lands and that someday they would return. Atahualpa was not sure if this was the time, and if the bearded men were the ones. A belief not only peculiar to the Incas. The Christian world is also waiting for the return of the Messiah. But deep in our souls, we do not want this to happen, for it will be the final day of judgment. It still remains to be seen what we will do if he does. And if he ever comes, will we crucify him again or receive him well? Even if he's not God, what are we going to do? We think that we're too advanced to accept any man-like creature coming from nowhere and telling us, I am the Redeemer. Can anyone imagine that? The ceremonial entourage continued a slow pace through the narrow streets of the city, arriving to the main square. The first one to enter saw an empty and eerie place, but soon the soft pacing of the carriers of the Indians began to give life to the sight. Finally, his leader came to a stop at the center of the plaza, while the rest of his entourage kept on coming, among them the Lord of Chincha and the nobles of other important cities, transporting their hammers. Then the stone-faced generals, followed by their warriors. Once all inside, Atahualpa lifted his right hand and ordered a halt to the entrance of more people to an already packed enclosure. Marcavilca, where is everybody? Great Atahualpa, the strangers are hiding. Perhaps they want a sign from you to come out. That is exactly what the Inca wanted to hear. For subservient people will always say what their superiors want to be told, especially when devastation is imminent. Padre, your time has come. Go to him and convert that hidden Indian. Father Valverde was carrying in his left hand the lance-like symbol of the cross, and the other hand the Bible. Perhaps how Viracocha Pachayachachi was described by the ancestral Incas. However, they or their predecessors didn't know of the paper or writing, which demonstrates how our history has been tampered and suggesting that we may have been visited by no other than the God of the invaders. One wonders what the Spaniards were doing here, if not to exterminate them. The emissary of Christ closely followed the indispensable Filipino, started to approach the Inca. Surrounded by 6,000 heretics, the priest would preach Atahualpa through Filipino in matters that are unknown to humanity, but believed by all, the existence of God. The exchange of ideas would be the most difficult point to get across. The old world language is a learned one, whereas the Quechua dialect of the Incas is a breastfed tongue in which the heart talks. The Spaniards would give their maker one last chance to avert bloodshed through their proxy Valverde, who invoked for one last miracle, convert Atahualpa. God in his infinite wisdom would not materialize such a prodigy. However, his followers will do exactly opposite of what he himself sacrificed for, so that we mortals will not have to crucify among ourselves. In the process, we must have crucified God 1,000 times. The priest began to talk in a slow and calculated manner, so that he could be clearly understood through his translator, who was looking directly at his former master and now his enemy. To the Inca, he was just another Yanacona servant, the very Indian that Filipino was to the Spaniards. Atahualpa, the Padre says that in the beginning there was a creation by God who cannot be seen like it is. That there are three gods, the Father, the Son, the Holy Ghost, and all are one God. That his Son was crucified to save us from eternal damnation. That in the beginning there was a man and a woman who committed carnal sin, and you must be baptized to redeem yourself of that original transgression. That the God of the Christians has a representative in the old world, the Pope, who has instructed the emperors to conquer the new world, divide the lands among themselves, and spread Christianity. That Carlos V is the emperor of Spain, if not of the world, to whom you must obey and pay tribute. The difficult translation over, and the main points wrongly but put across by Filipino left the Inca bewildered. The translator was inept in spiritual matters, Worse yet, he did not understand the Quechua spoken by the nobility, a tongue different than his, being a northerner, long removed from his country, and now in his 20s. To make matters controversial, many of the Spanish words have no equivalent in the Inca idiom, like baptism, redemption, and many other ones, which to these days are intermingled with the dialect of the natives. This is why Filipino could not explain the Trinity of one God. The Inca understood that 3 plus 1 God is 4. However, Atahualpa was not there to understand the intricacies of their beliefs or to hear of God-sent potentates, but to get revenge for desecrating the only kingdom that he knew, and it was his now. Filipino, tell their priest that I don't understand what is he asking me to comprehend. How can it be creation if we do not know when it was the beginning? The sun is in perpetual motion, and there is no end or beginning in its endless rotation. Thus, in the beginning there was no creation, because the beginning was already created in the eternity of the times. Then he says that there are 4 divine entities, none of which can be seen, while we can see Inti. More incredible yet, how is it possible that Emir killed the Son of God? Then he's not a powerful God. You see, ask him. Padre Valverde, this Indian doesn't want to accept that your God is the true one. Tell him about the transgressions of Adam and Eve, and why he has to be baptized to cleanse himself of that original sin. I will, Padre, but that would mean the end of his endless life of fornication. He's not going to like that. Miserable servant, what did you tell him? I am the one who's answering, and not you. Explain to the priest that if in the beginning there was only one man and one woman, it is natural they had to reproduce. What is this baptism and redemption all about? I don't have to be responsible for someone else's fornication. Any God would want us to procreate so that he can have more worshippers. And that is why the priest wants us to convert. I will not do anything of this sort, let alone be baptized, as if immersing in water is going to change my belief in my idols. Inti wants me to fornicate with different women so that there are more sons of the sun. Padre, he's getting blasphemous. This damn Indian is going to be burned alive, like those heretics in the old world who talk like him. Explain to him about the Pope and the Emperor who are on earth. Maybe that will make some sense to him than talking of the heavens. I will, Father. Yanacona's servant asked the priest, who is that Pope who dares to divide our lands and give them away without spilling one drop of his own blood? Who is this emperor who claims to be greater than I am? He can be all that he wants to be in his own dominion, but not here. I will pay tribute to no one. Filipino was out of words. The Inca had rebutted all their demands. The translator had heard and seen the insolence of the Inca, and to him it signified his death. Filipino had misinterpreted and told the Inca in a few words what he should have been explained without any personal rancor. Even if the Inca understood what the priest was telling him, would that have prevented Indian blood from being shed? Should Atahualpa have kneeled down to a new god and paid his respect to the friar? If Atahualpa had accepted their monarch and pope, would the Spaniards have considered the Indians their equals? Only the Almighty would have wanted to be that way. But we mortals know that it would not have made any difference, just as it's happened in our days. Nevertheless, the Indians, all the Americans, are the most devout Christians in spite of having been forced into a new religion, which they now defend with the irrationality of their beliefs. The miracle that would have made the priests pious did not occur. Atahualpa remained defiant to their God, Pope, and King. Valverde, realizing the futility of his mission, began shouting without the translator help so that everybody could hear his frustration. Atahualpa, we have come to offer you eternal salvation. You heretic, embrace this cross and accept the word of God that is written in this book. While the priest kept pointing to the Bible, Atahualpa sensed what he was saying. He looked at the book. To him was just another object like many others brought from the old world. Enraged, Atahualpa stood up and he responded, "Priest of the strangers, I'm here to recover all that you have stolen from us, and now you want me to bow to these 2 cross sticks? Give me that black object and let me hear what he has to tell me, since you say that is the word of your God." Hereje, take the Bible and embrace the word of God. What is this? It is just a bunch of coca leaves made into a bundle. Bringing the book to his ear, and upon hearing nothing, the Inca threw the Bible to the floor. "Oh, you blasphemous Indian, you will pay for having desecrated the word of the Almighty. God will be merciless with you." Flushed and shaking in fury, the priest turned away from the Inca, waving the cross, and while picking up the Bible, he screamed, "Francisco, do you see what this heretic did with the Bible? It is time to teach him who our God is. Do what you have always done with these Indians. You will be absolved of the carnage that this savage deserves." Having heard and seen what had occurred, Francisco came out from hiding, waving a white handkerchief, and signaled to Pedro de Candia to open fire. At the battle cry of "Santiago, Santiago," the main mountain of horses, adorned with bells, began charging with their sharp lances into the thousands of people. Here's a picture of the occasion. The foot soldiers with their swords high in the air followed to the outcry of "Kill all the infidels," the slaughtering and maiming the unarmed multitude, while hundreds of their younger Indians allies finished off the wounded and the dying. In panic, the masses ran to the only 2 openings, which were already blocked by mountains of mangled bodies. In their desperation, they pressed against the walls, which fell, and many escaped to the meadows to be followed by the cavalry. Meanwhile, Atahualpa carriers were barely sustaining the Inca aloft. Many of them had lost their arms to the cutting swords, and they were supporting the heavy litter on their shoulders. The remaining stump of their upper extremities sprayed the red blood that we all have, while not a single Spaniard has shed 1 drop of blue blood, which they claim to have. Who could describe what happened at that moment in time, let alone me, who is left without any emotions to even understand what the wrath of God is? With the brutality of all genocides, slashing and mutilating every unarmed opponent, Francisco made his way to the Inca. In the commotion, the golden leader began to wobble, and Atahualpa fell. The Inca was surrounded by the Spaniards who were ready to kill him. No lo maten. The Inca has to be taken alive, or we are all dead. Alonso de Mena, hijo de puta, get your sword out of the way. Can you see that I already have Atahualpa by his hair? Mierda, you cut my wrist. Go and kill the rest of the Indians who are escaping. Miguel de Estete leave his crown French alone. The Inca is mine and the empire is ours. Out of all the Spaniards, Francisco was the only one who was injured, and by one of his own men. Their Indian allies who had fought in a hand-to-hand combat against their own brothers were now accounted for all the casualties. No one would ever know what Atahualpa was thinking, but from that moment on, our fate as Incas ended. To this day, were the very Indians who lost to the Spaniards. In the ghostly whistling winds of the past, anguished voices of crawling humanity could be heard amidst the apocalyptic dust of destruction. With the crumbling walls of the plaza, our Jericho came to pass. They had massacred the thousands who were inside. In the open, they followed hundreds to their death, and the persecution of the Indians continued to this day by no other than their own half-brothers, the mestizos, both becoming the most humiliated race in the history of mankind. The Inca had fallen. The empire was without a leader. In less than 1 hour, 6,000 or 7,000 natives lay dead. The chroniclers differ and the historians dispute how many died. Take any number. Who cares for their accuracy? Now they were just Indians. 1 or 1,000 of them had no significance then. It has no meaning now, and it will never have any importance if we let the world keep on humiliating us. Thus, in the twilight of one crepuscular Saturday, November 16, 1532, our demise came to pass. A day that has been lost in the annals of our forgotten history as one of the most disgraceful acts committed by human beings against human beings. 500 years later, we as a race are still suffering its effects with no end in sight. Can anyone doubt our Holocaust? Why is no one speaking on our behalf as they do for others? Why? Why not? Have we not even the dignity to cry to the four winds and arouse the ire of this civilized world for what happened and is happened to all the Indians of the Americas? Such is the essence of our humanity in the emptiness of our nothingness. The massacre over, Francisco and Atahualpa sat at the table to dine. As in the Last Supper of Christ with his 12 apostles, the Inca will also have his Judas in Filipino, who would not treason him with a kiss, but with his tongue. Outside, the stench of the dead and the cries of the wounded could still be smelled and heard. To Atahualpa, it was another war lost. To Francisco, just another massacre of Indians. To them the fortunes and misfortunes of genocide were the property of the gods. As far as the Inca was concerned, the god of the Spaniard had won. With the mixing of the chicha and wine, a new era had begun. Filipillo, before you sit at the table of humiliation, I want to know from you of the event that brought our downfall. The priests could have done something to prevent the killing of your own people. I don't know whether to pity or despise you, because you represent what we are. I seem to know you. I am one of you. Enlighten me on who you were, and I hope to be wrong about my perception of who we are. Man of the future, like you, I have also lost my identity. I don't know who am I, or to whom should I pledge my loyalty. The Incas and the Spaniards are the most despicable people I know. What am I supposed to do? I'm a hostage of both. They scorn me for what I am. I should have contempt for what I did. Let me be a translator and not the arbiter of two bastards who are intent on taking the little dignity that I have left. I understand, but you could have acted as a neutral mediator to preserve the survival of your race and save the reputation of the Spaniards. Where do you fit in this dilemma? Our fate is in your tongue. I also don't know what to think of you. Are you a refined Indian or a self-centered mestizo? Which one are you? You seem to talk well of the Spaniards and of the Indians, albeit with some irony in between the lines of our both. What happened to us, nobody could have prevented. Your inability to forget the anguish past is the reason for your perpetual melancholy. Yes, what I translated in the plaza, I might have altered. But you should know that the Inca Lord subjugated my people. Even now, Atahualpa treats me like a Yanacona servant, knowing well that I have learned the manners of the old world. Filipillo, it's not enough to imitate the ways of the nations, of other nations. More important is to follow their highest ideals for the good of all. Kuntursoul, I have learned from the Spaniards his treachery, avarice, and discrimination. It was not easy for me to be in Spain. I was treated as a curiosity, in other words, like an Indian. That is the image that I would like to raise, but Atahualpa treats me worse than they do. If he could, he would have me killed. He's no better than the Spaniards are. You are right in saying that his future is in my tongue, and that is the way it is going to be between the two of us. Can you see that this is a matter beyond you and him? It is all about the survival of our race. What you say or do in malice will have atrocious consequences long after you are gone and for generations to come. That is why we must reconcile our historical blunders, so that our ancestors, in the dust of their bones, can mend their deeds, and we, their descendants, remake ourselves while we're still alive. I can see what our history has done to you. Why don't you do like I did? Join the ones who are in power, and forget about the Indians of the past or of the present, like all the people of your times do. Filipillo, you who have lived with them, you could have felt the essence of El Cid, who was loyal to king and country, even if he was banished from his beloved Burgos. Immersed in the soul of Cervantes, who tried to mend the wrongs of mankind, even if they laughed at his Quixote. or kept allegiance to your own people, like our own Garcilaso de la Vega, who never denied his Inca heritage. As you can see, in the land of Spain, as in other nations, there are men of thought, but like in your time, humanity does not follow the ideals of great thinkers. Men of the future, the people whom I dealt with were fortune seekers. My way of thinking was theirs. I don't know how to read or write. I learned Spanish by listening. What do you expect from me? Filipillo, I only hope that in the inertness of your being, you accept your own people, or are you like many of us who, in spite of having gone to foreign soils, have remained an enemy of our race? You mean like you, who in every line that you write is an affront to your own people, and every place where you were born. That Quixote of whom you are talking about never righted the wrongs of his own people, and you, a half-assed Indian, want to do what better men couldn't have accomplished with their ingenuity. Regardless of your empty rhetoric, Atahualpa is going to pay for what he has done to my nation, and Don Francisco is going to appreciate me. Just wait and see. Then join Francisco with his guest, and let us hear how our destiny is going to be played with the game of words among the three of you. I imagine that being impartial must have been difficult, and you should not be faulted for what happened. For whether you meant well or ill, the Spaniards knew what they were going to do with us. It was still Saturday when another atrocity was going to be committed in the black legend of the Spaniards. Atahualpa was shackled with chains of iron, to him an unknown metal, and more valuable than gold. However, and soon he would find out that golden chains should have been proper for a man of his rank, or better yet, no chains at all. For he was a king. At a quickly made table, the interpreters sat in between Atahualpa and Francisco. They were face to face as equals. That as far as the Inca was concerned, he was against the two, although Filipillo didn't belong to either. The Inca nobility of the Spaniard caste, he was considered lower than an Indian in the eyes of both. Filipillo, tell the Inca not to feel bad for what happened today. And Atahualpa, the Apumacho says that you are fighting against a few men of great courage, and you should not be ashamed that you have lost the battle. Yanacona servant, tell that Apumacho that I came with an armed man. He calls that an army? I entered the plaza in good faith. Now I am his prisoner. I didn't let him come all the way to Cajamarca to fight against him. If that would have been the case, I could have decimated his forces in the Cordilleras under my general Rumiñahue, who wanted to kill all of them. Capito, Atahualpa says that you have betrayed him. Tell this heretic that he was not coming in goodwill. He was not a man to be trusted, but to be feared. Atahualpa, the Apumacho says that you have committed many crimes. I am the lord of the land. I don't tell his emperor what to do with his subjects. Capito, he says that not your king or the pope can tell him what to do with his people. Explain to him that I don't kill Indians unless they resist me. Even then, I am more merciful than he would have been with us if I had lost. and we still don't know where Rumiñahui is. The old man says that you still have forces to attack them. Tell the Apumacho that he doesn't have to worry about his safety as long as he keeps me alive. I know he could have killed me, but he saved me from his own men. I think there should be some trust between the two of us. Then translate to him that he will have all his women and means of communication until I decide what to do with him. Capito, Atahualpa says that your word is only of value if gold is given to you and that you are going to die. The discussion dinner has ended. We will see which one of us is going to lose his life first. After that turbulent event, the victors searched among the dead and the dying for the spoils of war. Then they began ransacking the palace and the temples of all the gold and silver. The heavy litter of the Inca alone equaled the empty coffers of the crown, and from that moment on, they would be filled with the sweat of our slavery for centuries to come. While the surviving natives were witnessing, the Spaniards were raping the young women and girls. Where in the history of mankind has a civilization fallen so sadly and so mercilessly? It could only have happened in the Americas, the cradle of all and some Holocaust. Will the Indians rise someday? Only God, who brought us our misery, knows that our deliverance will not come from the heavens. It will have to happen on earth. But by whom? Whoever that person is, he or she must feel the pain of what happened to our ancestors and what is happening to their descendants. Unfortunately, we have had whites, mestizos, and Indians in the seat of power, but to no avail. No one can change what ails our souls, which is the disdain that we all have for the Indian blood that runs in our living carcasses. In the dawn of a new day, the beginning of a new era had begun. When Christ died, they called that day Good Friday, an appropriate name for a day of mourning. Should we call a Good Saturday the moment the Inca civilization ended? That would be the time when we, Indians and mestizos alike, will be finally united. But we don't even remember when our end came to pass, let alone commemorate what happened to us not so long ago. That day has no meaning in our souls, and why every rising of the sun is a bad Saturday for us. The Spaniards had taken Atahualpa hostage, and he had Huascar captive. From there on, their confrontations would be wars of deception among the three of them. Francisco would outsmart the two Incas for gold, and the two brothers would try to outdo each other to save their lives. Would Francisco let Atahualpa continue as the lord of the land? That could be dangerous. Would Atahualpa allow Huascar fight the invaders? That would have been ideal. But it did not happen that way, because it's not in us to fight for our own survival. Instead, both tried to ally with their exterminators. Ever since, the vultures of the civilized world have descended to feast on the carcass of what we were, and we still live in the pestilence of their greed. There is no end to our saga. We will always be hostage to those tragic events. What happened to all the Indians of the Americas is written in volumes that corrode the soul of those who read our sorrowful past. Perhaps I should end with these 12 and legitimate emperor, Huascar. However, his brother changed our destiny. Not to be sacrilegious at the comparisons, we have come close in numbers to the Christians of antiquity, with their 12 apostles and the 13, Jesus, who was crucified for the salvation of men. But Atahualpa, the 13th Inca, was no Christ. He was a man of flesh and bones, who was sacrificed for the greed of men, and we have no Messiah to redeem us from our ongoing Holocaust. Atahualpa's curiosity satisfied, he finally understood that the strangers were not the Viracocha demigods, but men like him. The Spaniards came to conquer the Incas, just like Atahualpa went south to subdue Huascar. But the Incas' conflict was for the dominance of the Andeo world, like the invaders who had come to the new continent to aggrandize their hegemony. Now all humanity flourished on the ashes of our ancestors, fertilized with the blood of the Indians of all the Americas. With that thought in mind, I returned to my routine of doctoring children and asked myself, what am I writing? Is it I, or could it be the soul of my ancestors who are doing for me? Am I thinking of myself as their deliverer? What a fancy of mine that a mestizo with his scanty white beard could be the Moses of the Indians. Pensive, I question why this outpouring of self-crucifixion. Maybe I am trying to instigate bloodshed through my writing and not human enough to forget the past. My claim to the redemption of the Indians is so sterile that I don't even use my fists to grapple the pen and feel the pain of my toil. Instead, I etch the cryptic nebulous thoughts of my past onto the screen of the future. For what purpose? I do not know. Let us continue with our history, which is no longer that of the Incas, but of the Indians and the mestizos. Don Francisco, you are now the governor of Nueva Castilla. You had your first supper with Inca and the last for the Indians, with the Spaniards. It is time for you to hang the innocent. Kuntursoul, to whom do you refer? I'm referring to Atahualpa. His innocence makes him in the image of Christ, and you the executioner of both. For neither the Inca nor the Son of God should have ever been martyrs. What an insolence to compare Atahualpa to our Redeemer. What we're about to do with him is his will. Don Francisco, the Almighty has nothing to do with your iniquities. That's why I want to believe in God in spite of what we humans are capable of doing to each other. Coño, I thought you didn't accept the existence of a supreme being. Yes, I do, but not for the reason that you believe in him. You think you're going to occupy the empire for the glory of God, just like the Moors who occupied Spain by the will of Allah. However, you expelled them from your land, and now you have come to impose your beliefs on us for the rest of our humanity. What are we going to do? We have no more gods left but yours. The drama of a tragedy began to be played by the principal actors, Francisco and Atahualpa. The translator would be the director of the script. Francisco would ask Atahualpa about the war against Huascar, but their conversation invariably ended with the question of where most of the gold was. The Inca, realizing that the Spaniards adored gold more than their god, it became clear to him that the way to conquer them was with gold, something that he had, and regained his freedom through reciprocity. Capito, Atahualpa says he had all the gold there is, and that he can give it to whoever he wishes. Filipillo, he's finding out that what we want the most is gold. Did you tell him that anyone can do whatever one wants if one has it? Capito, today gold represents the tears of Inti. But he now understands that it's more valuable than that. I think he got something in mind. What? Have you ever heard of these Indians pay ransom for their freedom? No, Capito. They use women to solidify their alliances. They're women we have. He seems to hint that he can give gold for his freedom. And that person has to be me. Are you correct in translating what he's saying? You also value women more than gold. Total of the discussion, Pizarro left Atahualpa's detention house that's still standing with some remnants of red paint at the midpoint of the same walls, of the stone walls. Upon hearing that the strangers wanted gold for his release, the Inca nobles thought that their horses also craved for silver, since the animals kept on chewing their iron bits, and how historians in all epochs belittles the Indians. How to get more gold was the primary objective of the Spaniards. Atahualpa, how to regain his freedom. Both would try to outsmart each other for their intentions. Atahualpa, when is your brother coming? We must continue to Cusco. Apumacho, if gold is what you want, I can order it to be brought here. Why go to Cusco or wait for Huascar to come to Cajamarca? Atahualpa, we also have to take possession of the land for the king and the pope. No, you and your men are searching for more gold. I told Filipillo that you can have all the gold there is without having to travel long distances. Filipillo, are you translating correctly? You seem to be distracted with his favorite concubine. Don't you dare to touch any of his women. He will be furious with us for allowing that to happen. There are a lot of Indian girls. You can have any one of them for your pleasure. Capito, we also love a woman with the same passion that you have for gold. Indiano, don't involve us with your personal feelings if you have any. You said that Atahualpa could bring all the gold that there is in the empire. Ask him, what does he want in return? His liberty? He's cunning. He has even learned to play chess, and he's good at it for an Indian. Yaracona Filipillo, what did he say? Your master seems to indicate that we're coming to some mutual agreement. Tell him that I will stand tiptoe, raise my arm as much as I can, and trace a red line to mark how high I will fill the room with gold, and twice that amount with silver. Filipillo, did I see well what he did and heard correctly what he said? Yes, Don Francisco. All that gold and silver for his freedom. You have heard what he said, and there is no need to translate what you saw. Yes, that high. Hernando measured this room. Atahualpa said that he will fill with gold in exchange for his liberty. Yeah, and with that gold, our demise. Francisco, this Indian is free, and we're all dead. Nevertheless, let us measure it. His prison is 22 feet long and 17 feet wide. You said that he stood on his toes with his right arm outstretched. which is approximately 9 feet high. He's taller than most Indians, and that is good for you, for us. If he fills the room, as he said, we will be the richest men on earth. Who told him the idea of ransoming? These Indians don't know the refinements of paying for their life. They only know death. Hernando, don't underestimate his intelligence. He has even beaten Soto at the game of chess many times. Call my notary to draw up a contract before Atahualpa changed his mind. Filipillo, tell Atahualpa that we'll give him 2 months to fill the room. To expedite, they can bring the golden object as they are. Afterwards, we will melt them. We're not interested in their works of art. To us, it's gold, and better if it's duro and hard. 2 people who didn't know how to read or write signed the contract with an X. For in matters of avarice, neither one is needed. The ransom would be the richest ever paid in history, and it's not even recorded in the Guinness Book of World Records. Another example of how the Indians are excluded even in the most trivial of books. The Incas had enough gold to fill the empty coffers of the old world, which made it possible for those countries to emerge out of the dark ages. Is anyone speaking for the natives or all the Americans? No. They are irrelevant to the world that advances materially. To the Spaniards, this belief. Atahualpa gave orders to fill the room with treasure. Time was of the essence. We're not sure when the ransom was to be fulfilled. It was early December 1532. The next 2 months will be crucial for Atahualpa's freedom, and Francisco's credibility with the contract. Although the Inca was in prison, there was no disruption in the empire. His subjects kept working in their fields to keep the masses fed. Meantime, Cusco was still shaken by the terror inflicted by the high priest of Atahualpa. Out of this anomaly, another type of intrigue ensued between the northerners and the southerners. Both would try to form alliance with the Spaniards. It is possible that Huascar followers thought that the invaders were the true Huiracochas. After all, they had just taken prisoner the man who defeated them. Just as Atahualpa believed that one time the strangers were demigods, were coming to celebrate his victory. Hate prevented them from putting their passions aside to fight a common enemy. Knowing that there was more gold to be had after the ransom was completed, the Spaniards were becoming restless for more. While they waited, they feasted on the brains and hearts of llamas, the favorite staple of the Inca nobility, killing 150 a day or 177 of them. Soon the empire would be without these animals, just as the early immigrants to North America who almost exterminated the buffalo, using them as shooting targets and not for food. The original inhabitants of all the Americas had a greater sense of ecological preservation, and they would not only lose their riches, but their very means of subsistence. As time passed, the translators were not essential. They had very little to say. The Spaniards wanted more gold, Atahualpa his freedom, and Huascar his life. Atahualpa, my people are getting worried that you are delaying the contract in order to attack us. Apu Macho, if you don't trust me, you can send envoys to collect more gold from Pachacamac and Cusco. Are you insinuating that I send my men knowing that I cannot spare any one of them? If you want Gold to be brought faster, send someone to Pachacamac, which is closer. While these events were taking place in the north, in the sacred city, Cusi Yupanqui gave orders that Chalcochima take Huascar with his family to Cajamarca and let Atahualpa decide his brother's fate. The defeated Inca would not be traveling golden litter. Instead, he would be pulled by a leather strap that made its way into his flesh. As the gruesome party traveled north, the news of the Spaniards were no longer rumors. Huascar thought that he would soon be free by them. Hernando, go to Pachacamac, find out if what Atahualpa is saying is true. Francisco, you are sending me because Almagro will be arriving and you will give him part of the ransom. I'll be back with the booty, but he will have none of it. Hernando, my partner is coming with more troops so that we can proceed to Cusco. Can you understand that? What do we need Almagro for? We're doing well without him. If he comes, we have to share the gold with the rest of his soldiers. He has not done much for the conquest other than getting us in debt and trying to sabotage the expedition. Someday I will kill that one-eyed jackass. Atahualpa, I will send my brother. I want all assurance for his safety. If something happens to him, you will die. This is a map of the trip of Hernando Pizarro to Pachacamac. Apumacho, all he needs is one of the tassels on my crown as a passport for his safety. The nobles of Pachacamac who are here will guide you, brother Hernando Pizarro. The Inca admonished the nobles of Pachacamac to take the strangers to the sanctuary and not to deceive them by hiding the treasure. Their lives were at stake if they did otherwise. Filipillo, what is Atahualpa telling them? Capito, exactly what you want to hear. He himself distrusts the nobles of Pachacamac. Do not fear, they will do as Atahualpa has ordered. With 20 horsemen, 9 infantrymen, and an escort of thousands of porters, Hernando Pizarro left Cajamarca on January 5th, 1533. It took them 3 weeks to descend from the Andes to the coast. Marching on the driest desert, they passed the future city of kings, Lima, arriving 1 week later to the outskirts of Pachacamac. The gold seekers decided to camp the night on the sand dunes close to the sanctuary. The next day, early in the morning, they were welcomed by tremors that shook the earth and infuriated the oceans. Perhaps an omen of the idol of Pachacamac that was going to meet its end against a god from the old world and become another empty concept in the minds of credulous people. Francisquillo, are these Templars the worst of their idol? No, Don Hernando, you are in the land of earthquakes. Only the priests of this sanctuary know how to appease the unknown forces that causes these calamities. Oh, who else but them, just like our priests? Let us go to the sanctuary and see who is this idol that shakes the world. Don Hernando, they will not let you enter the sacred place without first fasting, which can take days, if not weeks. Francisquillo, I did not travel this far to be turned away at the doors of a false god. I am going to climb to the chambers of that idol, even if the shamans don't want me to. Walking through prohibited passage and climbing unending stairs, the Spaniards made their way to the top of the pyramid-like structure. From high above, they could see the sun on its way to the horizon, a breathtaking view that astonished them. As the fresh breeze of the ocean came their way, they also sensed the putrid smell of sacrificial offerings that emanated from the dark chambers of the sanctuary, reminding them of their own demise, for whether human or beast, the stench of death is the same. Two old priests implored the strangers not to enter the forbidden sanctum. The Spaniards curiously examined the entrance, which was covered by a curtain of precious stones. Eager to see what was inside, they abruptly made their way into the shrine. Mierda, there is nothing here but a wooden effigy of an ugly creature. They call this idol the creator of all? It's not even made of gold. Atahualpa knew it all along, and that is why he sent us here. Destroy this worthless effigy and place our cross on top of the sanctuary for all to see the God that they would now have to worship. Thus, another symbol of Christianity was forced on their lands. The usurpers began collecting the few pieces of gold and silver of the desecrated and now open chamber, hardly what they had expected. Not to be defrauded, the Spaniards stayed long enough to obtain gold from the surroundings of the community. And this is Pachacamac, or the idol Pachacamac, which was made of wood. Hernando left Pachacamac on his way to Cajamarca. Midway in his march, he received a message from Francisco that he should go to Jauja in the Andes, where Huascar and his captor Chalcochima were, and bring both of them to him. Francisco also sent a second party to Cusco under the command of Pedro de Monjer, Martin Bueno, and Juan de Zarate. In their way south, the three Spaniards encountered Chalcochima and his hostage. Huascar, who no longer looked like a king, but more like a beggar, had his first view of the strangers. To him, they were the Huiracochas, including their black slave. The deposed emperor talked to them not as he would have done in the past when addressing his subjects, but on his knees. Huiracochas, please save me from the Quitos. You don't have to go to Cusco. I will give you all the gold that you want. I am the Sapa Inca. Take me to see your Apu Macho. Who is this wretched man who called himself the Lord of the land? How could he be the king, let alone give us gold? Tell this miserable Indian that we have explicit orders to go to the imperial city. Perhaps on our way back, we can take him to Cajamarca. The envoys continued, leaving Huascar at the mercy of his captor. Huascar, my son, nobody is going to believe that you are the son of the sun. Mother, Atahualpa is also a prisoner. He's using all my gold to gain his freedom. I know that I could convince the strangers otherwise if they take me to Cajamarca. Only this time Huascar met the Spaniards, unaware that his end was near. Meanwhile in Cusco, Quisquis, after seeing the tassel of Atahualpa's crown, reluctantly received the four men. I say the four because the man of color should be mentioned as one of the invading forces. Compañeros, look, this city is covered with gold. Nothing compares to what we have so far seen. Maybe that beggar who called himself the Inca Lord was right in saying that all the gold is in Cusco and that he was the owner of all that there is in the empire. Monher, perhaps we should have helped him. that General Chalcochima was harsh on him and his family. These Indians can be cruel, even to their own kings. Martin, look at the black man, all that he sees. He wishes he could get some of that gold, but at least he can have their women. Zarate, Pizarro ordered not to take any liberties with the women, so that when he comes, they will receive him well. Monher, we don't have to obey everything the captain said. He knew we were expendable, and that's why he sent us here. The Spaniards were treated better than they would have in their own homeland. Ever since, any foreigner who comes to the New World, or anyone who can diminish the dignity of an Indian, is considered superior to them at dawn. With the help of the natives, they started to remove the golden plates which cover the walls of the temples. They would also remove the jewelry of the mummies against the protest of the caretakers. These were the same clowns that Huascar wanted to do away with to secure his lordship. Now the strangers were doing what he couldn't when he was the lord of the land. The empire had a new master who had come up to serve what was not theirs, a mentality of misappropriation that's still being practiced in Peru at all levels of society by people who have no greater idea than to benefit themselves and not for the common good. If anyone doubts this, just look how the Indians live in spite of the riches of the land, and that is possessed by the very few, and why any well-to-do individual inevitably acquire their wealth through extortion of their own compatriots. While the two expeditions were collecting and bringing the gold, the Spaniards waited impatiently for the room to be filled with the ransom, albeit all in a mood of festivity, while siring the new children of Peru, who no longer were the sons of the sun, but the ungrateful bastard who despised their Indian blood. Atahualpa, although in chains, enjoyed all the comforts in his prison and the pleasure of his women. He was fond of Inti Paya, the youngest and the most beautiful of all his concubines, and soon to be the seed of discord between an all-powerful Inca and a refined Indian. Gold and silver kept on coming from all over the empire to free Atahualpa, but also to restore the kingdom to Huascar. Pizarro didn't know whom to ally with, and he opted to wait for the arrival of Huascar. Atahualpa, aware of this, sent orders to Chalcochima to hold his trip to Cajamarca until he knew what Francisco had in mind with the two Inca lords who had offered him the same fortunes. Atahualpa, why are you so sad? The Inca responded with a lie. Apu Macho, I feel despondent because of the news I have just received. Chalcochima has killed Huascar, whom I was so anxious to see. I know that you will hold me responsible. Pizarro, who was as deceiving as Atahualpa, thought nothing of Huascar's death. Pizarro knew that with the death of the last legitimate Inca, he could choose a sovereign not as powerful and continue with the conquest. Atahualpa, if we didn't order to kill your brother, finish your part of the contract and you will go to Cusco, and we will go to Cusco to crown you. Upon hearing the positive response of Francisco, Atahualpa sent a secret envoy to tell Chalcochima to kill Huascar before Hernando Pizarro arrived in Jauja. Atahualpa was aware that once his brother was out of the way, he could deal with Pizarro as the undisputed lord. The messenger arrived with the lethal orders of Atahualpa, and that Chalcochima should carry out as it were of his own initiative. the general proceeded to give the final blow to his royal prisoner. Atahualpa, what am I doing here? I have been so involved with your schemes that I have forgotten of Huascar's fate. Kuntursoul, the end of the empire is near, and Huascar's demise is even closer. Can't you understand the historical consequences of what you are about to do, regardless of what happened to either one of you? Man of the future, men will always live for their own self-interest. We were not different. Even you are here for your own good. Inca, as individuals, we can elect what is best for us, but as a race or as a nation, we're no longer free to choose for ourselves. We should have joined with your people, even if they were your enemies, and fight for your collective survival. Kuntursoul, if Huascar had acceded to my petitions, we would now be fighting the bearded man. Instead, he's fighting against me while I am in prison. Can you see that if you are captive of the strangers, and Huascar is your prisoner, both of you are their hostages? If you die as enemies, the empire will fall. War is all about personal sacrifices, but the desire for power made you act otherwise. As it is, your descendants are only able to survive as individuals and not as a united nation. In these, his last moments, I encountered Atahualpa's brother. Huascar, you have been humble to the core of your soul. You represent the end of what we were. Oh, man of the future, look at me. You will see what we're capable of doing to ourselves. Inca, sometimes we have to go down to the gutters of our own lives to feel in the depths of our souls the power to move the scales of justice. Kuntursoul, do not speak to me of righteousness. In my wretched existence there is a hurricane of hate for all that is good in us. Open my wound, but do not expose my fallen soul that will never rise again. Huascar, for the last time, talk to us, even if the roar of the river below drowns your word and deafens our ears. Huascar spoke. My descendants, from my world of perpetual penitence, I implore you to unite in spirit and break these shackles of your heritage. If you don't, you will live forever in the misery of your own doings. Finishing this poignant word, Huascar was killed and his remains were thrown to the Andamarca River, disappearing in the turbulence of our times on March of 1533. Like his killers who washed their hands of his blood, we must also cleanse our past and strive to be what we never were, a people kind to ourselves. My soul search with Huascar had ended. Now I know what happened to us and why. Is this the final trek of my trip? No. Our quest must go on until we are one spiritual family. For the saga of the Incas will continue unless we end it ourselves. I will stride the last stretch of my journey to get to the soul of Atahualpa, for only the dead can hear our adversities, and through them we can foresee our future. After Huascar's fatal event, Chalcochima had two options. He either united literally factions and fight the invaders, or worse, join the usurpers to suppress his own people. Perhaps he tried to do both. He had no other choice. Although free, he was a prisoner of conqueror and conquered. Meanwhile, in Panama, Almagro had been able to convince 200 men to come for the conquest of Peru. not knowing that Francisco had already taken Cajamarca. They navigated under an inexperienced pilot, arriving at the northern tip of the empire, where Almagro learned that indeed his partner had found what they were looking for so long. Hernando, in his return from Pachacamac, had problems. Francisquillo, our horses are shoeless and we have no more iron to make them. We have to climb the high mountains on foot. Don Hernando, we're taking hundreds of llamas loaded with silver. Why not use that useless metal to make horseshoes? Having shoed the horses with silver fittings, the Spanish expedition climbed the Andes to Jauja. Chalcochima was causing terror in the land of the Huancas, their historical enemies, who allied with the conquerors, and they humiliated Chalcochima. Although the Inca general could have decimated both, he had orders not to fight for the Spaniards. Francisquillo, we had to take Chalcochima to Cajamarca, as ordered by Francisco. He has a powerful army, and there are rumors that he has killed Atahualpa's brother. We are not in position to fight him, even if the Huancas are with us. Don Hernando, just telling that Atahualpa wants him back in Cajamarca. He will do anything that the Inca orders. It should not be difficult for you to lie to him. Be careful how you answer me. Although you are a refined Indian, you are still what they are. I am trying to forget what I am, that I am one of them. Otherwise, why help you, if not to dissociate myself from this Indian? It is incredible that you Indians despise your own kind, and like us, will always be proud to be Spaniards. That is why I want to be one of you. But you don't accept us, even if we serve you against our own people and try to be like you. Francisquillo, we will always treat the Indians the same, whether they dress or talk like we do. Then, my face denounces that I am an Indian? No, it is your soul that divulges who you are for being ashamed of your own race. Enough of this conversation. Translate to this criminal dog that he must come with us to Cajamarca. Chalcochima, the Huiracocha says, you, Mr. Yanacona, don't you address me by my name. I am a general. When you talk to me, bow your head as you do for the strangers. Don Hernando, he will not come. He has threatened me with my life. Then, telling that his lord wants him to come to celebrate his freedom and coronation. Filipillo, Atahualpa said to wait for further orders, but if the stranger is saying it's true, I will go to Cajamarca. Chalcochima, without knowing what was happening in Cajamarca, went with Hernando. With the arrival of all parties, the triad of deceit began. Hernando and Almagro, mutual hate for each other. Atahualpa's distrust for Francisco promises for his liberty, and the Spanish fears of revolt of Atahualpa's troops. Something had to give. And ever since then, Peru has not trusted even his own son, who lived in masses to other lands to find new horizons. Kuntursoul, I cannot believe that my greatest general is here. He was my only salvation, and with him all hopes of recovering the empire have vanished. He too has fallen into the trap of the bearded man. I am doomed. Yes, you are, because you treated your people like children, and children don't think for themselves. If the Inca Lord led their subjects as men of free will, Chalcochima would have acted accordingly. Instead, you were the ones thinking for them. which is where you Incas fail and were dismally failing on the leaders who treat their own citizens no better than you did. The Inca received the general who humbly approached him carrying a symbolic load of wood on his back. Atahualpa's eyes strengthening his general, who didn't dare to look directly at him. Kissing the Sapa Inca chained feet, Chalcochima realized that both were prisoners. All his lord could do was to feign joy in seeing him, and use Chalcochima to his advantage. Atahualpa knew that any powerful man in between him and his captor should be done away with, so that he could remain the sole power broker. Chalcochima, how did you fall into their hands? Great Atahualpa, the brother of the Apu Machu, told me that you had ordered that I should come to celebrate your coronation. I had no other choice but to oblige to such a great event. Now I see by the weight of your chains the futility of my attempts to free you. Tell me, how did you get into this situation against an insignificant number of men? For Huiracochas they are not. You had Rumiñahue to protect you. I know. He had orders to kill the strangers who were escaping. Instead, our people were the ones running away. Perhaps he didn't know what to do on account of my safety, but he could have done something. The Quito general always thought different than us. He must have had plans of his own after your capture. Careful that these walls have ears and eyes. Everything I say or do is heard by the translators and seen by the foreigners. But with every day that passes, we get to know of their frailties, as the mortals they are and not the demigods that we thought they were. I am the only link to their salvation, and that is why they can't determine what to do with me. They are also finding out that my enemies are not only them, but my people who have seen in the strangers another master more powerful than I am. We must seek ways to gain our freedom without the support of our own, but with the help of the bearded men. For that, we have to rely on their greed. However, I feel that once they have what they want, they might not honor their word and decide our future with the help of our compatriots. Chalcochima understood that Atahualpa was no longer the commander-in-chief, but a puppet of an enemy with an advanced technology of war. With no new weapons or ways to fight invaders, the great and last general gazed at the Heracomb. He could hear the music played by the Spaniard guitar that had the haunting sounds of trickling water that would destroy the Inca spirit drop by drop in the centuries to come. Almagro arrived to Cajamarca with more troops and horses. With Alcochas, Soto and Hernando, why are you bringing more soldiers and horses? I thought that once you obtain all the gold for my liberty, you would leave. Atahualpa nobility is more about retaining that status. For that to happen, one has to know whom to ally with. We want to help you against your own enemies who are making contact with us. You are in friendlier hands with the Spaniards, and why we are getting more reinforcements. I only hope that in my moments of need, both of you will be here. The parties, civilized or not, began to concoct their own games of deception. The novelty of the conquest and the riches that kept on coming were already an old story. Some wanted to get their share and return to Spain before being buried in silver coffins. But most wanted to go to Cusco to get more gold and solidify the invasion. It was already May 1533. The 2 months allotted to fill the room with treasure and had long expired. Everybody was anxious. They felt that the Inca was delaying on purpose to get rid of them. Capitan, we feel that Atahualpa has already filled the room to the mark that he had traced. There is enough gold and silver to be distributed. Many of us want to return to Spain and enjoy the fruits of our adventure. Soldiers, I hear you. I will make good on my promise. Francisco, not all the gold that is coming is for Atahualpa's freedom. Some is to save Huascar's life, and that cannot be counted as part of the ransom. As the treasurer of the crown, I had to keep track of what is Atahualpa's and what is his brother's. Almagro men should receive part of Huascar's treasure. Requerame, we will melt all the gold and silver objects that so far have been collected. As a man of finances, I will let you divide what belongs to the king and our part. I don't want any of my men who soiled their pants to be discontented with his share. With the frigid air of the Andes, warmed by the exhaled breath of the natives, they began to heat the clay furnaces. Here's the Incas melting the gold. Melting the thousand exquisitely crafted objects, sparing a few fine pieces of art for the delight of Carlos V. Hernando, take the royal gift to the king and honor our family name with the treasure. You will receive what is due to you. I have kept my promise that I would make you rich. His brother left to Spain. The distribution among the troops would be the greatest feast of greed in the history of mankind. The days were spent fighting among themselves for any minute piece of gold that could be acquired. The disbursement was according to the possession of a horse or any instrument of war that expeditiously caused the death of a greater number of Indians. The chroniclers and historians mingled the different units of weight and currency used in those days: arrobas, quintales, marcos, ducados, which have no meaning or present. Perhaps a way to describe the ransom is to compare to the gold kept in the United States at Fort Knox, or obtain all that amount in the mines that are still being mined 500 years later, causing the death of millions of natives. So much gold was coming that it was impossible to keep accurate record, because the Spaniards would steal or conceal the metal. All the riches taken to Europe filled the gutters of their avariciousness, making it possible to begin their industrial revolution. What did we, natives of the New World, get in return? The degradation of a race and the humiliating name of Indians. If that is not a Holocaust, then what is? That is why humanity has to restore what we lost in our souls, and not the gold that has been ingested, digested, and all the Indians are getting is the yellow shit of their greed. Let the old world keep what they took from our continent, and mankind give back to us our dignity, which weighs more than the fucking fortunes stolen from us. So much gold and silver was distributed that even the ones who received the smallest share were rich enough to lend money to the crown. Almagro and his men received nothing, and if they did, it was only to pay the expenses for what they brought to continue with the conquest. Of personal interest, Ciesa tells us that of the 86 cavalry men, one of them was Hernan Sánchez, and of the 160 men on foot, Bartolomé Sánchez, Lázaro Sánchez, Juan Sánchez, Alonso Sánchez, and Miguel Sánchez. the most numerous with that surname. Perhaps one of them was part of my mestizaje, and I cannot deny that side of my heritage. I just want my ancestors of the old world to know that life is also fighting for lost causes, and I am advocating for my Indian heritage that has been dispossessed. But all those Sánchez were also fighting for a cause, and whether good or bad, in the end, we all fight for something that we believe. In my heart, there is no ill feelings towards them. We are all faulty humans. Capito Atahualpa is furious. Only you can calm his anger. Atahualpa, what happened? Apumachu, you had to kill that miserable Filipino. Why? He's the best translator I have. I don't care. He has been fornicated with Intipaya, my favorite concubine. We have been doing the same thing with your women. I cannot kill him for similar crimes that we're committing. With you, it is different. Filipino is a servant. Atahualpa's heart was appeased. Now the Spaniards got an ally who would perpetrate one of the most unspeakable acts of betrayal. Francisco would use to his advantage the adversarial situation of the man who could distort the translated word against all-powerful Lord in chains, because Pizarro had not the least intention of fulfilling his part of the contract. The contest between Atahualpa and Filipino would be for a woman, and the Inca versus Francisco for his freedom. Atahualpa, why are you so worried tonight? Oh, Huiracocha Soto, my chess adversary. Look at that bright star with a long tail. It tells me that my end is near. Nonsense. That is a comet. It doesn't bring any bad augurs. Yes, it does. My father died soon after that event took place in the skies. Now I see that same omen is going to happen to me. You are the only protector I have. Hernando is gone to the old world, and he will never return. Although he was cruel to my people, he looked after me, perhaps for his own self-interest. Atahualpa, your life and the future of the empire are in your hands. Tell us if it's true that your generals are uprising. You are a man of war, and that is why you are being kept in prison. Huiracocha Soto, my loyal generals are probably planning to rescue me, but some are also conniving against me. Chalcochima will tell you the truth. I hope he does, or he will die. Sapa Inca, why are you so despondent of the death of your brothers? You should be happy that soon you will be released and we can retake the empire. All we need is your command. Chalcochima, you must never divulge that I order Huascar execution. If you do, they will kill me. General Chalcochima, we know that you are having secret talks with Atahualpa and you are planning to revolt. Tell me the truth or we will burn you alive. Huiracocha Soto, the Inca has been faithful to his contract. There are no plans to attack you. Indian dog, you are not telling me the truth. Only slow fire of our justice will make you talk. In the center of the plaza, the general was placed at the stake. As the flames began to burn his feet, Chalcochima gazed at Atahualpa's first fierce eyes that were commanding him to die like a warrior and reveal nothing of what he knew. Stop the fire. Do not let Atahualpa stare at me, that his fire eyes burn more than the flames. I will talk. Soto extinguished the fire with his boots. The general regained his composure and he began to talk. This time looking straight at the eyes of Atahualpa, to whom he never dared to do so. Yes, Atahualpa gave me orders to kill his brother. He's also resentful because I didn't start the uprising. That is why he wants me to die. The Spaniards heard all that they needed to know to execute Atahualpa. Pizarro felt the same. Francisco, we cannot blame Atahualpa for trying to regain his freedom. He has fulfilled most of his part. It is time that you let him free. I don't think there is any uprising. Filipillo is implicating him to take his preferred concubine, Chalcochima to save his life, and Almagro to move on with the conquest. Soto, Atahualpa is an astute warrior and a dangerous one to keep alive. With Huascar, we could have had two factions as enemies and easy to subjugate them. To let the Inca free at the command of an army is suicide. His death is what the majority wants. He has to be judged. We have no other choice. Who knows, if Atahualpa had been let free, would he have made it difficult for the conquest to continue? Perhaps not. Loyalty to the Spaniards had already been established from his own ranks. Soto, you must be with us and decide what to do with Atahualpa. Francisco, he's a monarch. We must treat him like one. Even if I kill many of his subjects, at least he would be an adversary worth of our effort. Otherwise, we would just be a butcher of Indians, and there is no glory in that. Imagine if you sent him to Spain as equal to the king. Don't you think that his presence in the mother country will ennoble us? I will reason with him and get the truth from the Inca. Atahualpa, perhaps that over that comment is going to happen. Some of you people and most of ours want you dead. Huiracocha Soto, I urge you to tell Francisco men that I must be left free. I told them, but their minds are made up. You have no friends. I will try to prevent your death if I cannot get your freedom. I am a man of my word. Francisco, you must kill Atahualpa as soon as possible. I know that Soto wants him alive. I don't see why the rest of us should be die for his supposedly chivalry. Almagro, I'm also for eliminating the Inca, but not for the reasons that you have in mind. I must see if we're going to honor our word and allow the Inca go free, or at least preserve his life. Francisco is right. We have to honor that part of our bargain. Soto, to hell with your word of honor to an Indian whose people you despise. You and Francisco use that word to deceive others. As long as Atahualpa is alive, we won't get our share of the gold from the rest of Peru. I say that we execute the Inca. Filipillo was also wishing his death. Capito, I have heard that there is a large contingent of troops in Huamachuco, not too far from here. Atahualpa's generals are getting ready to attack us. Francisco, we must kill Atahualpa before it's too late. Almagro, Filipillo is lying. He wants to have him killed for the love of a woman, and you for the love of gold. Francisco and Almagro, I will personally go for myself if the uprising that Filipillo is talking about is true. Don't do anything hasty with Atahualpa while I'm gone. Remember, some of us are on the side of the Inca for no other reason than to be true to the contract. The empire continued to be a divided nation. Even the conquerors were forming their own factions, the Almagristas and the Pizarristas, who in time will end up killing each other. The Incas had also formed their own band, the Huascaristas and the Atahualpistas, who in turn pacted alliance with the Spaniard factions to do their fighting, and were still siding for the interests of foreigners. Atahualpa, I myself will go to Huamachuco to verify if it's true that you have troops in revolt, and exonerate you of the accusation they are false. Huiracocha Soto, send someone else. Anything could happen to you, and I will have no one to speak for me. Atahualpa, they will only believe me. My men, even if few, will speak for you. Francisco, Soto is gone. This is the time to kill Atahualpa. Almagro, at least we should try him legally. We have ample evidence to prosecute him and give him the penalty of death. With that purpose in mind, the Spaniards gathered to deliberate the fate of the Inca. Only one of the so many spoke on Atahualpa's behalf, Cataño. I say no to Almagro and Francisco. They want to try Atahualpa because Soto is gone. He's the only one who can speak on his behalf. I accuse you of treason. The Inca should be sent to the mother country to be judged in the royal courts. Apprehend and jail that insubordinate soldier for insulting me. Capitan, as a treasurer of the crown, I also request that the Inca be prosecuted. If found guilty, he should be punished by death. We must proceed to Cusco, or you will be accused of preventing the enrichment of the crown. Don Francisco, you will be forming an illicit court to free yourself of guilt. You even have the approval of the treasurer, and most are in favor for his death, except for the soldier of Soto who had protested, and is now in jail. Such is the will of the majority, sometimes the disgrace of democracy, when injustice overcomes justice. Kuntursoul were less than 400 against the thousands of them. We have been in Cajamarca too long, and we don't know what is happened with the rest of the empire. Don Francisco, what you're about to do with your so-called justice is the same that the Indians are now receiving in our courts, with the help of the mestizos who join with the oppressors to oppress their own people. Thus, in our times we talk about Holocaust, but one would think that the Indians are not part of humanity to be recognized with one of these catastrophic events. For genocide it was not. It decimated civilization. It is inadmissible that those nations and peoples who suffered these despicable events do not raise the consciousness of mankind to let the world know that Holocausts are still happening. Nothing will ever change until the Indians put an end to their own oppression. But when and by whom? Many are guilty of maintaining the status quo disguised by religion, unequal globalization, and misguided democracy, where the minority are the ones who cause misery in the majority. Atahualpa, tomorrow you will be judged for your crimes. Apo Macho, why don't you execute me now and present this disparity that you call justice? Atahualpa, you will receive the benefits of our justice, even if you don't understand it. A Spaniard will represent you as is required by law. Huiracocha Francisco, the only defender I have is Soto, and he's gone. Without him, I have a chance to receive a fair trial. Do what you have to do without your legal protocols. Your sense of justice is like your religion that preaches not to kill, and all of you are killing my people. Atahualpa's accusers, besides the Spaniards, were his former enemies who sought with his death freedom from the Incas. Filipillo was the key man in the outcome of the judgment, and he would give the coastal people their revenge. Others who clamored for his life were the Chachapoyas and the Cañaris, who had been castigated in Cusco. With compatriots like them, he would have more clemency from the conquerors than his own people, and Juan Ardei's justice to the Indians will not come from the mestizos or the Indians, but from the world court. The next day, July 25, 1533, the plaza became the first courtroom to try our own people under the guidance of justice by foreigners who had and still have not the least interest in a fair trial for the Indians. Nowadays, our courts are no longer in the open, but in great palaces, where they are still being tried by unjust judges, and with translators like Filipillo, their lawyers, the Indians have not a chance to get a favorable outcome. In chains, this time around his neck, Atahualpa was brought to the square in the macabre crepuscle one afternoon. Filipillo was at the head of the entourage, while Inti Paya kept an eye on the translator turned into a semi-Spaniard. Perhaps the love of two men for this woman accelerated the end of the empire. Sagas that have been sung in operas and written in countless novels. The same passionate love of a plebeian for a noble woman was no different in the New World, even if uncivilized. The Spaniards sat on the benches hastily made from the trunks of corrugated trees. Sánchez the Cuellar, the notary, would write for the pages of our infamous history that the Inca had his day in court. Chavez, the would-be defender of Atahualpa, had not all the least interest in justice, but he would represent the accused to conform with the formalities of a court. Among the members of the ad hoc tribunal, there was not a single lawyer. But who needed one? For the lawyer's craft is in his tongue to twist the facts for the benefit of the detriment of the accused. In this mock trial, anyone was qualified to be one, because the more civilized we are, the more uncivilized we become in our sense of equity. In this judgment, no one had the least intention of speaking in Atahualpa's defense. Even the lone Spaniard Cataño had already made peace with Francisco, who promised him that he would not execute the Inca unless there was enough evidence. Atahualpa didn't have a chance in a court where the tongue and not the heart did justice. Perhaps the Inquisition, the stepdaughter of injustice, would have more mercy for the accused than these adventurers. This was the New World. Anybody did as they pleased, and they still do in all the American continent. The plaza was filled with the natives who were interested in seeing the Spanish way of justice that was different than theirs, where the Inca swiftly delivered his verdict by letting the roar of boulders fall on the back of the condemned. There was Pizarro wearing the black robe of Santiago, like a crusader. Almagro, whose pockets were empty, looked impatiently for the lynching to take place, while with the death of the Inca, he would be free to continue with the rape of the empire. Also present were Riquelme and Navarro, the treasurer and the accountant, who had no goal for themselves, but they would if the Inca died. Out of the 300 Spaniards, 315, only a few had more sense of fairness for Atahualpa, not because he was innocent, but to honor the contract. For the word of honor to a Spaniard is as good as his signature. However, the Indians was not Europe, and honor and honor only nothing but greed, as it is today. Although Spain had Cervantes, whose Quixote, the quintessential man in matters of honor, taught us that anyone can fight the ills of humanity, even by us, Sánchez. The Spaniard had the soul to be magnanimous, but avarice and power putrefy all of us. Let the judgment begin. The public notary will read the charges, and the jury will decide on its merits. May God have mercy on this Indian, for his crimes are as visible as the sun. Capitan, shouldn't we bless the court first? Oh, Father Valverde, I forgot the most important in all our doings. The priest raised the cross, now made of silver, and blessed all. In the vanishing reddish evening, the Inca would spend his last night hoping for a better tomorrow. The accusation represented a myriad of clashes between two different cultures, and the verdict would be the most cynical in the history of mankind. The hearing began with the indigenous people as witness. Some were tortured or bribed to say what was convenient for the Spaniards and to the allies of Filipino. The notary took note of their testimonies. Unfortunately, nothing of what he wrote was left for posterity, but the results of that ill-famed judgment can be inscribed in our souls. The tribunal was in essence a military court. Few or any had any knowledge of civil law. However, the priests had. They acted to advise and even as accusers, like the intransigent Father Valverde. Francisco was not knowledgeable in matters of law, but he had to preside over the proceedings because he was the Captain General and the governor of New Castile. Atahualpa, you are being judged for crimes that you have perpetrated against the crown and your own people. Only God knows how many others you must have committed. We will be fair. Your subjects are going to be your own accusers and witnesses. Filipillo, does he understand what I'm trying to tell him? The Inca looked at the translator with the disdain of a king for his subjects. The small and black eyes of Filipillo flashed with pride in his position of translator, as the natives looked astonished that he could utter the same foreign words spoken by the Spaniards. Yes, Don Francisco, Atahualpa understood what I have translated. No, the Inca did not understand what he was going to be charged with. He knew that the charge was a farce. There was no need to answer except to respond with the fire look of his eyes. The first accusation. Atahualpa, we have heard that you are gathering troops in Huamachuco, and soon we will have proof when Soto returns, if he ever does. Do you admit that they will attack us? Filipillo began translating maliciously. Atahualpa, the Huiracochas are saying that you are going to kill all of them. The Inca's eyes returned to Pizarro, astounded by the allegations, for he had no knowledge of such a rebellion. The second accusation, is it true that you have been hiding the gold and silver that legally belongs to the crown? The notary says that you have been stealing all the riches of the crown. The Inca laughed at such an incongruent statement. The third accusation, you are a heretic and refuse to be baptized. Valverde kept moving his head up and down, while the devilish look of his angelical face gave him a hint of his negative verdict for the accused. There was no need of an answer from the Inca. The fourth accusation, are you the legitimate son of Huayna Capac, or a bastard with a Quito concubine? The Huiracocha says, that you are an illegitimate son. What difference would that make? He knew that he was the only lord of the land. Legitimacy had nothing to do with who was the most able. Francisco's face became red. He himself was illegitimate, and perhaps, like Atahualpa, who vanquished his brother, Pizarro was no longer a bastard. He was a conqueror of the Incas. The fifth accusation: did Huayna Capac leave a testament naming you the inheritor of the empire, or did you take it by force from Huascar? Filipillo, tell the one who writes that I won the crown because I was the most capable, not like the Apumacho who is taking the Tahuantinsuyo by treachery. He says that he's the most powerful man in the empire, and he didn't need anyone to give him the crown. The sixth accusation, ask him why did he continue giving privilege, lands and women to his relatives, knowing well that the Spanish crown was in possession of all that there was in the empire. Yanacona Filipillo, is he accusing me of usurping my own lands? Huiracocha, he said that Francisco is the thief, and not him. The seventh accusation, did you kill Huascar? And if so, was it after or before we took Cajamarca? What difference would that make if he answered yes or no? Atahualpa looked down, making a negative motion, while the people moved their heads assertively. The eighth accusation, did you order to commit crimes in the imperial city and desecrate the mummies to end the Inca dynasty? Filipillo, tell the court that was not present in Cusco, my priest carry out the killings without my knowledge. She says that he ordered his high priest to kill the nobility to take possession of the empire. Filipillo had altered his response. But what were the Spaniards doing, if not killing the natives in the name of the king and the pope, who knew of the carnage committed on their behalf? Why was he on trial for identical crimes? Such was and still is the nature of the courts when it comes to do justice for the Indians. The ninth accusation, are you an incestuous man? The numerous concubines look at their lord and consort. Only one kept looking at Filipillo, Intipaya, mesmerized at the translator's ability to speak with the malice of a lawyer. Enough! We could be here all night and accuse him of more crimes. As you have heard, not only is he a heretic, but a usurper of the throne. Only for being an impious, he deserves to be burned alive. But he also has conspired with his generals to attack us. As a man of war, he deserves to die by the sword. Chavez, as the defender of this Indian, what do you have to say on his behalf? Chavez, a soldier who never spoke in public, and ashamed of defending a guilty man, in this case, an Indian, could not make a case in Atahualpa's defense against the mountain of misconstrued evidence. Disconcerted, he looked disapprovingly at his client. He knew that he had already been paid handsomely with the ransom of the Inca. His effort as an impromptu lawyer was pro bono work. There was no need to prolong the criminal and civil proceedings. All he wanted was a rapid sentence which would secure him a trip back to the old world and enjoy his booty. Atahualpa had not moved all night due to the weight of his chains, while quietly waiting for the dawn of another day. Feigning sorrow for Atahualpa, Francisco got hold of the fetters and led him to his house of detention. For a while no word crossed between the two. Pizarro looked at him with a compassion for imminent death, and Atahualpa with contempt for the unjust trial that he had received from his captor. Atahualpa, you had your say in court. We will deliberate and decide your fate before another day comes. In the plaza, some arose and in low tone began saying, "It's not fair." Those few men were followers of Soto who tried to make a case for Atahualpa. How could it be possible that this Indian who helped us to come all the way here be accused of anything but kindness in a state of war? Together and in unison, the majority rebutted, "Idiots! He's not through with us. If we let him free, it will be the end of all of us. We have no time to lose. The verdict is clear. He must die before his troops come." "No, we have no right to take his life. At least we owe him that much for all the gold that he has given us." "Vamos, he must be executed. We don't have time to wait for Soto's return." As they all kept bickering, the representatives of the church stood up. "Christians, I command that he be burned at the stake, as all heretics are put to death. Atahualpa deserves no less for being one. Father Valverde has spoken. As a representative of the Pope, only he can give the penalty of death by fire to an infidel. Yes, he must burn. He must be burned. I will absolve you for the infringement of the commandment that says, 'Thou shalt not kill.' Padre, shouldn't he be baptized first?" "He should, but this Indian is refusing to accept God at the doors of death." Finally, Francisco ordered all to be silent. Showing some feeling of personal tragedy, he spoke. "Men of valor, justice has prevailed. Father Valverde has the last word, and his is the voice of the Almighty. I know that some are not in favor of the penalty he deserves, but they must respect the rule of the majority and realize that we are in a state of war. What we are about to do is not unjust, but also a strategy to keep our small force intact. We have come to conquer with the sword, and now with the scales of justice. As a fair man, I will let those dissenters go back to the motherland, so that the rest of us can march to Cusco. For the sake of unity, this judgment is finished. Let the will of God be done, for I have spoken my peace." "Capitan, let us wait until Soto returns. Maybe he has news of the subversion, or are they just lies fabricated by Filipino?" "I hear you, but there's no way to find out what happened to him. For all I know, Soto is dead, and Atahualpa armies are on their way. The Inca must die before we're attacked by his troops. I will tell him of the verdict and let him have the day to put his affairs in order. The liberation's over, and the fate of the Inca decided. Francisco gravely walked from the plaza to the empty room of his prison, the last piece of real estate that the Incas would ever possess in their own homeland. Once inside, the flaming eyes of the Inca ceased burning with the outpouring of tears of deception. He gave a vile look at Francisco, who evaded his gaze. Before Francisco could tell him, Atahualpa knew in his heart the outcome of the verdict. "Apu Machu, you had no reason to humiliate me with such a profane trial. We Incas did whatever we had to do with the people we wanted to get rid of, either for personal reasons or for the good of the empire. You could have spared me the outrage of having my own people betray me. And you had your best ally in Filipino. If that is your sense of justice, these civilized men are no better than we are. Atahualpa, you are guilty as charged. There is no use to prolong your agony. All you can do is baptize to save your soul. Francisco, I am guilty according to your ways of justice, and you have condemned me for the same crimes that your people are committing against us. You even charge me of adultery while you are raping our virgins of the sun in the flower of their youth. Who is going to judge you for that? Your God, who does not care for us? Atahualpa, don't be irreverent. You are not a stranger to what we warriors are capable of doing, and no one could match your cruelty when it comes to punishing your enemies. As the governor of these lands, I legislate by what the majority decides. As men of war, we also have our own code of justice. Apu Machu, you should not be at war against us. We never plan to attack you. I have fulfilled my part of the ransom for my life, but instead of giving me my freedom, you will give me death. Atahualpa, you are not going to be executed for that reason alone, but for the ones that you have been tried and found guilty. You should be thinking of baptizing so that you are not consumed by the flames of God's justice. If you have a heart, don't exterminate me by fire. My body must remain intact if I am to sit at the side of Inca. Atahualpa, the church has long ago decided that all heretics must die at the stake and feel the wrath of God. We promise not to scorch you if you accept to be baptized. Then your soul will be saved, and your carcass can go on existing as a mummy. Francisco left the room, perhaps relieved of any culpability. In this trip to the past, I feel responsible for not being at the side of the Inca in this moment of great need. Even if history describes him as an evil person, he is my ancestor. I must accept him as he was, because we are what they were. Kuntursoul, why were you not present at my judgment? Who knows, in the reverse of our times, I could have received some justice. Inca, we cannot reverse what happened, but by traveling the roads of our history, we can alleviate the agony in your souls and abate the suffering of your descendants. For there is no more injustice than that of forgetting our ancestors. Have we been forgotten by our own people? Yes, Inca. That is why Indians and mestizos must not ignore one line of their rotten past and preserve by fighting for one of their own as they were fighting for all. Then that is what our descendants should do to live with dignity. Tell me, what is this about the soul that the priest wants me to say before I die? Inca, nobody knows the soul, if the soul exists, and if it does it continue after we die? Perhaps the soul is what we are, and there is nothing perceptible in it except the essence of what we were. That explanation is not enough. I need to know before I accept the ritual of the baptism. Atahualpa again, I am as enlightened as you are in this matter. That is why we have the men of God to explain the mysteries of our souls. Let me expand, at least as I understand it. The soul has no relation to time or to our physical being. I assume that it continues after our bodies are gone. Perhaps our souls have been free to roam through the ether of our existence from the beginnings of times, and they represent the essence of mankind. As it is, only God knows the mysteries of His creation. But while we're alive, we must improve the state of our souls by living according to the principles of human righteousness, which comes closer to the sanctity of the Almighty. In other words, being civilized. However, a civilization, as you knew it, was not just with you. As you can see, nothing is known about the soul, but I know that we have lost it, and we must regain it. As your final hours are fast approaching in this encounter, we want to hear from the dust of your bones your last words. Not now. I'm still in my own flesh. I can only harbor hate for the infamy committed against my nation. Let me come to grips with myself. Maybe at the doors of death, I might have a change of heart. For now, I will bid you farewell. I will bid farewell to Inti. In the emptiness of the moment, Atahualpa left not to ponder about the great star that soon would abandon him. That last crepuscular is the grief that we Inca descendants will carry in our souls until the end of times. As the sun fell past the broken horizon of the mighty Andes, the Inca has seen for the last time the endless circle of Inti, rise again to set again, which reminds him of the cycle of life, be born to die. With that last sunset, the innocence of the Incas had ended. Inti would no longer be a god, and no one would ever again give credit to the sun that gleams in our days of gloom and give us hope in our nights of solitude. O Inti, you that travels into the unknown, do not abandon me in this moment of anguish. I feel alone, as you have been for eons. On the morrow we will no longer be your sons, but the stepsons of another god. I implore that you keep shining our descendants as you have shone on us, for they will be lost without you. With his arm raised, Atahualpa kept looking at the departing great star disappearing behind the mountains of our past. As he bowed his head in the twilight of one bygone evening, he quietly moved his feathers whilst his people listened to the sonas of these links that will keep us shackled for the rest of our humanity. The Inca was ready to meet his destiny. His executions began a macabre march in the land where the dead was worshipped and celebrated. With the weight of his chains somberly moving, he followed the grisly procession. In front, the standard bearer of Christianity was carried by the soldier priest Valverde, who still had not attained his final duty of converting the greatest heathen in the empire, which would justify the end to his means. Silently walking, the entourage of the living funeral reached the plaza amidst the tumult of the shouting onlookers. Once there, the governor of the new Castile gave a command to the heralds of justice to blow the trumpets of injustice. For the last time, the Inca listened to the reasons for his execution, which he did not need any translation. Atahualpa, the flames of injustice have been lit. May God have mercy on you. Filipillo, for the last time, tell this heretic that there is still time for his salvation in eternity if he accepts to be baptized. Atahualpa, the priest says that you dare to talk to me about my salvation when it is you who must say what we were. This is This is the descent of our race and the end of our way of life. For you will also die at the hands of the very same people who gave you a chance to become civilized. It is not I who must convert, but you who should come back to your people and help us with all the knowledge that you have acquired from them. Filipillo, did he accept to be baptized? No, Father Valverde. Then place this candle close to his face so that he can feel the fiery entrance into the inferno where he will go. As the flaming flick began to burn one side of his face, in this encounter of my soul leaped into the gruesome spectacle, and I removed the candle from Filipillo's hands. In tears I begged Atahualpa, even if you have been dead for as long as we have been chained to our past, we need to hear from you. Oh, Kuntursoul, you who have dared to travel to our times, I now envisage the purpose of your journey, and I feel guilty for having neglected the future of our race. Shouting with the last breath of his warrior spirit, he spoke defiantly in the harsh Quechua that rhymes best in moments of desperation. My descendants, may this land of ours no longer be disunited, for we have lost our empire, and it's for you to take it back, not from foreign invaders, but from yourselves. We have always been our own worst enemy, the greatest evil in us that you must overcome. I bid you farewell, not as the children who were my subjects, but as liberated men to right the wrong done to us. For no one is going to fight for you, for your causes. Only you will struggle for what is right. With the sharing of the torches around him, the Inca was placed at the stake, with his hand tied behind a post and his feet above a pile of wet wood. Filipillo, for the last time, tell this heretic that his body will no longer exist for posterity, and his soul will go forever to hell if he does not baptize. The humiliated Inca responded in a tone of reconciliation. Filipillo, for the good of our people, tell that the man of God not to burn my body. I want to sit at the side of Inti with the mummies of my ancestors. With the same book that Atahualpa threw on the floor when he was king, the priest, in his final attempt to convert the Inca, trusted the Bible to his face, shouting, "Baptize, baptize, you heretic, so that you can spare your soul from the flames of hell." Yes, I will baptize to reclaim Inti in the glory of my mummy. In triumph, Valverde lifted the cross, the sword of hope, and the Bible, now the instrument of death, frantically signaling to Francisco of his final victory and to be the godfather of the Inca. The priest began to sprinkle the water of salvation over the head of Atahualpa, while saying in Latin, "Indian, I baptize you in the name of God, as Juan Francisco Atahualpa. May the Lord have mercy upon you, for your soul is now saved." Filipillo, remove the cinders from the pyre of wood. This heretic is now one of us. He will die as a Christian and save his body as an Inca. As an executioner placed a rope around his neck, the new convert knew that in the end he had outdone Valverde, so that he could sit at the side of Inti as a mummy. Triumphant, and while looking at the priest, the first and last white man he saw, the executioner began to twist the rope. Atahualpa's eyes began to bulge, and his blue tongue started to protrude from his cavernous mouth. The ashen face of the would-be king fell to his chest at 7 o'clock on the 26th day of July of the year 1533, an evening that has been forgotten by all Peruvians. The last of the Incas was Garrot, and with him the end of what we were, vanished forever. But we will carry that news of our legacy for not having the will to undo the knot that encroaches our souls and soar to the heavens of hope. Thus, my journey has ended. My soul has no more strength to continue. I have trekked the path of desperation, for rage has yet to remove the shackles of human bondage. But when? Only time will tell. While we wait for the winds of the past to gather the storms of the future, the night befell in the darkness of our times. I bid farewell to the 13 Incas, hoping to reflect on our present in the heights of Machu Picchu and deliberate the future of our descendants. So I basically say goodbye to Atahualpa and encounter again the 13 Incas, and I asked them to join with me in Machu Picchu. As you all, almost half of the world knows where it is or have visited. And we have all seen this big structure almost at the entrance of Machu Picchu. It's a big camera, and then we sit in that place. All 13 Incas. Of course, first they come in, all the Incas, and we sit down, and we will try to discuss what to do with our history, how to vindicate ourselves, and perhaps go to the World Court and ask for some justice, to at least regain our dignity, and perhaps some restitution of some kind. But for sure, we must end this pernicious way of living of the American inhabitants as Indians. That has to stop.